I'm so honored to be up here tonight. Thank you so much. What a great crowd. I've really been enjoying the evening myself. Hopefully we can share a couple of pithy insights from things that we've learned in our business as we've gone ahead. We are in the, there we go. We're in the marketing technology space. More specifically, I suppose we'd call it the enterprise marketing technology space. We have a SaaS offering. And this is something that we started a few years ago. We were particularly in love with the problem. We wanted to make marketing better for marketers selling considered purchases, but things that are important to people when they buy them. And we saw that attention spans were dropping, the world was getting noisier, et cetera, et cetera. Surely there was a smarter way to do it. I'm not going to talk about that too much tonight. What I am going to talk about is the business of the business, the space that we're in, and the degree to which it drove the outcomes for a lot of the decisions that we made. Decisions we made as engineers, the decisions we made as product marketing people, as salespeople, as all the cogs of the wheel and the way that they come together to form a business for yourself. So, fun fact, back a number of years ago, they created the role of the Chief Marketing Officer, the CMO. And in about 2011 or 2012, I think it was Gartner Group, predicted that by 2017, the CMO, this brand new role that had just been created, was going to outspend, on average, the CIO in tech. Well, that's crazy, except it kind of happened. And what ended up happening was, back in 2012, there were about 150 people selling enterprise marketing technology into marketers, into this role. And now there's 5,000. That's a lot. They make these helpful diagrams to try to basically scare anybody from actually entering into the space, just to show you just how noisy it is. By the way, we are here. So with all of this investment, with all of this opportunity, with all of this budget coming up, you would assume that there'd be companies that would be having breakaway success during this particular time. Companies that were really aggregating around the key ideas and doing all the things right and growing their businesses. But here's what happened. What happened pretty much across the entire space, let's say 97% of the people that are in this space, and these are startups, but also companies that had established products that either entered the space or realized they had an offering that could help, is the average contract value start to decline. Churn, and for those of you who are familiar with the term, this has to do with your ability to retain your customers on an annual basis, went up. And the growth was depressed by all of this. It was terrible. This is the thing we were all going for. It was the opposite. So what are you going to do when this happens? This is very interesting. Well, of course, you want to build a company with great people and great product. And believe me, I am intensely proud of both the people we have at our company, which I think are the very best in the industry, and certainly that manifests in the product that they have. But I'm also very proud of a lot of groups of people in the space and the products that they've made from other companies. I mean, there's a lot of really good companies out there. So what do you really do different? Well, here's three sort of counterintuitive learnings that we've observed along the way. Early on, seeking to ask more for your product. Those companies that tried to get their average contract value up were met, sometimes harshly, with the customer saying, yeah, really? Show me your value then. Try harder. Tie it more to revenue. Tie it more to performance. Tie it more to success. Prove to me that it's not just going to be a good idea before I buy via the SaaS delivery model, which has gotten so popular in the last 10 years, but also after I buy on an ongoing basis. So those companies that actually attempted to elevate themselves, in some cases, by asking more for their product, found that in many cases their deal speed actually increased. This is completely counterintuitive. It didn't take months and months and months to do deals. It took about the same amount of time, even though it was 2 or 3 times the average contract value. They had more money to reinvest in success, in adoption, which in the enterprise game, particularly in SaaS, is incredibly important, incredibly underplayed, and frankly, that reduced churn. Never mind the fact that people that pay more, companies that pay more for products, tend to use them, tend to complain when something is wrong, and if you're a good company with good people and good product, you fix it. Speaking for ourselves, our ideal customer profile a few years ago was about 25,000 companies, and that was already a subset of a subset of a subset of all the amazing things we told our venture capitalists we could do, and we're going to take over the world. And that was great. We looked for companies that had money, that had time, that had all these sorts of things for our product. We cut that down by 90%. And what we found was when we focused on fewer companies, speaking for ourselves, we increased our close rate dramatically and actually dropped the amount of time and money it took for us to actually access our customers, the cost of customer acquisition. My final sort of counterintuitive point was half the selling happens before you pick up the phone. There have been some great studies on this. And really what it says is that most deals are part human interaction, but mostly non-human interactions, people consuming content, people in a self-education process. If you embrace this fully, you can not only increase the level of audience education, but your connection rate goes way up. That arrow is supposed to be pointing up. You get what I'm saying? People will want to talk to you when you can catch them in the middle of a self-education process. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So maybe it's not all about sales. Maybe it's more about embracing education. This happens to be something that we do fairly well because that's kind of our business. And it's not a shameless plug because it's important. Whether you use a tool like ours or you use your own marketing chops, any situation where you can take the noise level down by making sure people can connect with exactly the content that they need in exactly the moment when they have it will yield more educated, better customers. And if you can get a set of data on whether they actually consumed it or not, that's equally as important. Anyway, that's the end of my little talk. Embrace your counterintuitions. Not all SaaS metrics always lead to the right company, but it's always important to focus and generate value at every step. Thank you. Questions, if any?
While we wait, I'll throw the first one out.
My question in terms of education, what type of education model did you guys do? Was it more in terms of risk that you put out, you scared people to to the market, or was it more in terms of this is what you're missing out on, or what tactics did you guys go down?
So the question, the way I understand it, is when you're putting material out there to try to educate a marketplace, what sort of material are you talking about? Is it the sort of fear of missing out? Is it this is the terrible thing that will happen to you if you don't buy our product? All those sorts of things. Look, this goes to the culture of your organization and to some degree the sophistication of your marketing and to whatever degree you're looking to differentiate. I think we learned the best thing you can do is focus on an ideal customer profile that is most like you. Sell to people who care about the same thing you care about, and then the conversation becomes easier. The pieces you write, the things you blog about, the infographics you put out, they resonate. You don't have to twist yourself into figuring out exactly what do I have to say. Say what you mean. You say it at different levels, high level, specific levels, and then even more specific when you start to get down to the product level pieces. So again, it's a game of putting the right content out there and having it find your audience. If you're authentic, it'll happen.
What was it?
Any other questions?
What was the internal dialogue you had to have over here? What was the internal dialogue you had at the corporation for this to make that change?
Sorry, I can't see where you are. For some reason, I have to actually see where you are. Sorry, to make which change?
So you said that there was a cultural, part of your answer to the last one was that there was a cultural change that you had to have internally to make that dialogue change to your clients. How did that,
you know what, that's
what
actually
was the internal dialogue that happened?
It's actually fascinating. It was actually, as we started to grow, once we got past about 50, 60 people, we were fortunate enough to have a pretty good internal culture going, and literally we just channeled back our own folks. Is this us? Is this the way we want to communicate? Now, we were very fortunate because we were sort of a nerdy, talky bunch, can you tell? And so the whole company was like that, and we got lucky because we found that there were segments of the marketplace that were equally as nerdy and wanted to hear about the things that we were putting out. So instead of trying to dumb it down or wrap fancier words around it or try to sort of game our positioning, we found it was much easier to just sort of be natural. So again, it wasn't hugely difficult. It was more like snapping back into something that felt natural rather than twisting ourselves into all of these shapes that we thought we needed to be as we grew. Go ahead, please.
Hi, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It seems the content marketing space is becoming more and more important as part of an organization's process, and it seems to be more companies are jumping up trying to solve problems in the content marketing space, and it seems like a lot of companies are growing and doing well. What do you see this year, 2018, as specific trends in content marketing which you guys are looking to, I guess, jump on to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, I think probably the most important thing is that marketers, particularly performance marketers, are looking for ways to stay a step ahead of the personalization trend that goes on out there. People like to consume content in their work lives the same way that they consume content in their home lives, on an on-demand basis, whenever they want to do it, as much or as little as they need, always the right thing. It's like Netflix. They want to be able to binge on things. And we're very interested in this behavior. And we're very interested in being able to make it happen at scale, which means that you can't always have people making all those decisions. You have to have machines make those decisions. You have to have a data set that understands these things. That's where we put our focus. But there's lots of ways to contribute to the content space. I mean, the ideation to the syndication of content is a whole workflow that some companies are working very well on. And content can be the ads that you place. It can be the things that you produce. So there's a lot of different ways to service the content industry, but it's for many marketers the primary transaction that they seek to have happen. Unless you're selling a hat that you can put your credit card down for on the internet, you're pretty much getting people to consume content in return for interest, time, attention, education.